Right now, a new kind of housing is set to open in Davis. It's aiming to be just a small part of a bigger solution to the homeless crisis.
And it's expected to provide much needed services, emergency and permanent supportive housing for those at risk, homeless, and their families. ABC 10's Bridget Biorlo joining us live outside of Paul's Place, which is on H Street in Davis this morning. Bridget, this isn't the typical shelter we usually see, so what's the difference?
Well, Bria, in a traditional shelter, you don't get the privacy, you don't get the independence, and you don't get those social services that so many people need. Things like drug treatment, things like mental health support. So this facility here in Davis changes all that. It's supposed to feel a lot more like a home. It's designed like an apartment building as opposed to that traditional homeless shelter. And it's really a brand new concept. It's supposed to be a long-term solution to addressing the homeless crisis, which, as we know, is a very complex challenge. So the advocates are hoping that this serves as a model solution for other cities and counties to follow. It's a 4-story building and it's an ascension project. So it starts on the first floor with those social services. A lot of people can access those, and then it goes up from there to transitional living all the way up to permanent supportive housing.
We want people to become liking their home, staying and feeling it's their place, feeling they can do what they want in their unit, and become invested in being here. I mean, you know, it's the alternative to being out in the streets, and we want it to feel as much like a home for them to have as we can provide for them.
And speaking of home, I want to point out something really interesting, just the layout of this. When you walk through the facility, you see an H that you have to walk through. It stands for home, and it stands for hope. And the symbolism behind it is you start out on the streets, a path of struggle, and you go through toward a life of stability. Again, this facility opens this morning at 10:30, Bria.
So much planning, even down to the plans of the building. Bridget, so how many people will benefit from this project?
So the first floor, Bria, where people can get those drug support and mental health services, hundreds of people can be serviced a year. In terms of living spaces, transitional living on the next floor up, 10 people at a time. That's supposed to be more temporary, a few months at a time. And then the permanent options, 18 people at a time. Their spouses can come, their kids, their pets as well. That can be a couple years at a time living, but the goal is to get them on their feet and out into the real world where they can be productive members of society once again, Bria.
Yeah, very interesting that you said you're allowed to bring your pets. Sometimes that's one of the hindrances of people getting into housing. So excited to see what this new facility will do. Bridget, thank you. Also happening now, an advocate